Hey everyone, in this video we will be dissecting the implications of fluoridation in drinking water. We will be taking a look at it from a public health standpoint, and we'll be looking at a couple of peer-reviewed articles as well as some other websites such as Wikipedia and the CDC to see what they have to say about fluoride. Now, I know there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there about water fluoridation, so in this video we will attempt to keep an open mind and really just take a look at the data and see what that tells us. But I encourage viewers to keep an open mind and at the end of the day, do your own research on the topic. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So I put together a couple sources that I found, a couple peer-reviewed articles, and we're just going to take a look at some of those. So let's start at the beginning. Fluoride is, you can find on Wikipedia, stated as an inorganic monatomic anion whose salts are typically white or colorless. Fluoride salts typically have distinctive bitter tastes and are odorless. So this I got from the CDC, Center for Disease Control's website. And right up here at the top, we can see it says 75 years of community water fluoridation. It began in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when they became the first U.S. city to fluoridate its public water supply in 1945. 5 years later, when school children of Grand Rapids were found to have significantly fewer cavities than children from surrounding communities, other Michigan cities also began fluoridating and soon achieved similar results. Within a few years, cities and towns across the United States were fluoridating their water. So further down on this page, we can find a statement here where they state that fluoridation has been identified as the most practical and cost-effective method of delivering fluoride to all members of a community, regardless of age, education, or income. These advantages, combined with fluoridation's contribution to dramatic declines in both the prevalence and severity of tooth decay, led the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, to name water fluoridation, and here's the quote, one of 10 great public health achievements of the 20th century. And right below this, we see scientists in the United States and around the world have studied the safety and benefits of fluoridated water for a century and have not found consistent and convincing evidence to link water fluoridation with any potential unwarranted health effects other than something called dental fluorosis. And right here we see what that entails is a change in the appearance of tooth enamel. It can occur when young children less than 8 years of age regularly ingest too much while their permanent teeth are still developing. So let's see what the World Health Organization has to say about fluoride. So this was I obtained from the WHO's website, and this discusses effects on laboratory animals and in vitro test systems. So the short-term exposure, there have been a number of studies of fluoride in laboratory animals, effects on the skeleton such as inhibition of bone mineralization and formation, delayed fracture healing and reductions in bone volume, and collagen synthesis, have been observed in a variety of studies in which rats received fluoride orally for periods of 3 to 5 weeks at doses of excess of 16 milligrams per liter. Bone fragility was increased at concentrations in excess of 64 milligrams per liter. So, okay, so nothing too crazy. So let's move down on this study, and we will read a bit about the effects on humans. Fluoride may be an essential element for animals and humans. For humans, however, the essentiality has not been demonstrated unequivocally, and no data indicating the minimum nutritional requirement are available. So that's a bit interesting there. To produce signs of acute fluoride intoxication, minimum oral doses of at least 1 milligram fluoride per kilogram of body weight were required. So right down here we see, however, fluoride can have an adverse effect on tooth enamel and give rise to mild dental fluorosis, something which the CDC has already acknowledged. So further down in this article, we come across a statement: several epidemiological studies are available on the possible association between fluoride in drinking water and cancer rates among the population. IARC evaluated these studies in 1982 and 1987 and considered that they provided inadequate evidence, so minimal risk of cancer. So here's a graph of countries with fluoridated water, which begins around 1975 and ends at 2014. So on the y-axis here, we see the average decayed, missing, or filled teeth at age 12. And on the x-axis here, we see the years. And each line is representative of a different country, which we see up here in the top right-hand corner. And so what we're seeing over the time is a decrease in dental issues, and that could be attributed to the fluoridation of drinking water across these countries. But then we're given another interesting graph, and I'll skip to that one. So this is countries without fluoridated tap water. Again, years on the x-axis, and the y-axis is the overall tooth decay. And what we're seeing is pretty much a similar trend where there is a decrease in dental issues over time, which could just be due to healthcare improvements. So based on these two graphs, if we take a look at them side by side, there's not really it doesn't appear that there's that much of a reason for fluoridating water if people are becoming more educated and healthcare is increasing in a nation and people are taking better care of their teeth, brushing on a daily basis and so forth, and maintaining a somewhat healthy diet. It seems like these numbers will decrease regardless as a country develops and the need for fluoridation becomes a bit more of a controversy. So that's where we get into rejections of fluoridated water throughout the world. These are most common countries which reject fluoridation, and these statements are from European and other health, water, and environment authorities on water fluoridation. So right at the top here we see Austria. Toxic fluorides have never been added to the public water supplies in Austria. And down here we see Belgium. This water treatment has never been in use in Belgium and will never be, we hope so, into the future. The main reason for that is the fundamental position of the drinking water sector that it is not its task to deliver medicinal treatment to people. This is the sole responsibility of health services. And that seems to make a great deal of sense. China, fluoridation is banned, not allowed, because naturally high fluoride levels in water are a serious problem in China, because it is something that is naturally occurring and sometimes is tainted in river water supply. So I think perhaps one of the most interesting statements here is from Denmark. We are pleased to inform you that according to the Danish Ministry of Environment and Energy, toxic fluorides have never been added to the public water supplies. Consequently, no Danish city has ever been fluoridated. And that statement was from a Royal Danish Embassy, and that was back in 1999. A German ambassador stated that generally in Germany, fluoridation of drinking water is forbidden. The relevant German law allows exceptions to the fluoridation ban on application. The argumentation of the Federal Ministry of Health against the general permission of fluoridation of drinking water is the problematic nature of compulsory medication. So there seems to be more of an individualistic approach to dental hygiene and health in Europe. The idea that it's not the responsibility of the government to take into consideration its citizens' dental hygiene, which I think makes a lot of sense, brings the question to the foreground: why is it such a big issue in the United States, and why is it something that we spend a considerable amount of money on each year to maintain? And again, India, Israel, the Netherlands. So it seems like the countries that have banned fluoride are very developed nations and banned it based on the health risks, perhaps the costs of implementation as well. What we see with lesser developed countries, the main problem there is that there already are high concentrations of fluoride which are naturally occurring in water sources which cause health problems. So why is this? Well, there have been a few studies. This one was done in 1995, and this one was conducted in China. Effect of high fluoride water on intelligence in children. And so this is where the controversy stems from, and this is ultimately where things get a little strange. So let's read the summary of this. The intelligence quotient, IQ, was measured in 118 children aged 10 to 12 years who were lifelong residents in 2 villages of similar population size and social, educational, and economic background, but differing in the level of fluoride in drinking water. And so what they found was that the children in the high fluoride area had higher urinary fluoride levels than the children in the low fluoride area, which would make sense. But the interesting thing here is that the IQ of the 60 children in the high fluoride area was significantly lower, with the mean around 92, than that of the 58 children in the low fluoride area, where the mean was around 103 IQ points. And now again, there's a lot of controversy about the validity of IQ tests, and there's a lot of evidence that suggests that what they measure is not so much intelligence but cultural competence and so forth. But for the sake of this study, I do think those findings are pretty profound. And so over here we see the results. The residents of the 2 areas studied were similar in their social, educational, and economic background, so they tried to create a pretty controlled environment. The urinary fluoride levels of the children living in the area with a high fluoride level in drinking water were significantly higher than those of the children living in the area with a low fluoride level in drinking water. The mean IQ of the children living in the area with a high fluoride level in drinking water was significantly lower than that of the children living in the area with a low fluoride level in drinking water. So that's interesting to know. And here we see a table, and here we can see the number of children examined, and on the left we see the level of drinking water fluoride and the urinary level, and then all the way on the right we see the mean IQ. And so that's a big difference there, 92 to 103. That is a very big difference for 2 areas that are similar in economic status and education opportunity. Let's examine what other sources are telling us about fluoride. So here from an article, a peer-reviewed article, The Untold Story of Fluoridation, Revisiting the Changing Perspectives. This was published in 2018. They state that fluoride as a neurotoxin has been proven in several animal studies. A 2006 National Research Council report stated that it is apparent that fluorides have the ability to interfere with the functions of the brain and the body by direct and indirect means. This finding was confirmed by a study where groups of children exposed to fluoride in water were found to have lower average IQs. Less children attaining high IQ and more children affected by low IQ. So in this study, they referenced the study which I previously talked about, pretty much confirmed that there's a correlation here which implies causation. So let's go over the benefits once more, because all this seems a bit overwhelming. You know, if there truly are negative health effects to drinking fluoridated tap water, there must be some other benefits that we're unaware of. So let's just go over some of the benefits once more. So here on Wikipedia, you can see that the main benefits stated are cavity prevention and overall dental hygiene. And this is primarily propagated by the CDC. Again, we see that quote, one of the 10 great public health achievements of the 20th century. And when we go into dietary recommendations, which is also found on this Wikipedia site, we see an interesting sentence here. The major known risk of fluoride deficiency appears to be an increased risk of bacteria-caused tooth cavities. So based off of that, it doesn't seem like, beyond cavity prevention, that there is much benefit to fluoridating water. And so if this is truly the only risk of fluoride deficiency, it begs the question, why is that something that the World Health Organization and the CDC are so concerned about? It seems a very simple solution is just to educate people on dental hygiene and promote healthy dental habits like teeth brushing, consumption of foods which do not cause excessive tooth decay. So it seems like there are a lot of ways to promote healthy dental habits that the fluoridation of water appears the whole thing's a bit odd, and I can't seem to find much information on any other benefits other than those relating to dental health. The deficits here are severely undermined in the United States. So here we find on healthline.com a question here: is fluoridated water dangerous? And the statement they make here is, researchers from around the world have conducted hundreds of studies that look at the safety of adding low concentrations of fluoride to drinking water. There's no evidence that fluoride added to local water supplies in the United States causes any health problems, aside from the occasional mild case of dental fluorosis. So the wording here is kind of the most important aspect to note, is that they state there's no evidence that fluoride added to local water supplies in the United States causes any health problems. And the reason why it's stated like that is because there is evidence that it causes health problems in other nations, which is why it's been banned. However, some people claim that fluoridated water causes a variety of health problems, including low IQ scores in children, bone cancer, arthritis, and kidney disease. So looking back on all this, it seems a bit counterproductive to me, and it seems like the costs of the fluoridation of tap water severely outweigh the benefits. It also appears to me that if there were a severe epidemic of dental disease in the United States, that could be something that could be easily prevented through practice. The fact of the matter is, you have to ask yourself, why is this something that the World Health Organization and the CDC promote? So it's very strange. It's hard to find, when you just search this, much evidence on the contrary of the health benefits of fluoride, but it's out there, and there have been studies, and most European countries have banned it in their water supplies. I guess my main takeaway from this is, if you are a parent and you make your child wear a helmet when they're riding a bike, or encourage your child to read at a young age because you want your child to grow up and be productive and so forth, and intelligent, if you want those things for your children, I think perhaps keeping your kids away from fluoridated tap water may, for the time being, until more evidence comes out, may not be such a horrible idea. And now I know it's a big conspiracy theory, but the fact of the matter is that there are a number of countries which are concerned with this compound in the water supply, and there's a reason for that. There just isn't enough data to promote the idea that it is overwhelmingly beneficial to fluoridate drinking water. So my advice is, try to get some type of a filter, drink bottled water, just staying away from it until there's more data. But I encourage viewers to do their own research, take a look at the documents and articles which I reviewed in this video, and thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good one.